No one has the power to anger you unless you give it to them. The moment you react, you surrender control. Master this principle, and nothing in this world can touch your peace. Most people don't realize how easily they hand their power away. A careless driver, a disrespectful co-worker, a dismissive comment from someone they barely matter. Suddenly their heart rate rises, their thoughts spiral, and their entire day is hijacked. Not because the situation was powerful, but because their reaction was automatic. Stoicism teaches something most people never want to hear. Anger is not caused by events nor by people. It is created by judgment. The Stoics didn't train to live in a calm world. They trained to remain calm inside a chaotic one, and they understood that true strength isn't controlling others, but governing your own mind. Today, you're going to learn the exact discipline they used to become emotionally untouchable. Learn it, practice it, and peace stops being fragile. It becomes permanent. Write this down and remember it. I control my reactions. Anger is the price of surrendered control. Anger is not an emotion problem, it is a power problem. Every time you lose your temper, someone else is holding the reins. Anger is the price you pay for surrendering inner authority. Most people grow up believing anger is automatic, unavoidable, even justified. Someone crosses a line, disrespects them, interrupts their plans, and the reaction feels natural. Of course I'm angry. Anyone would be. But Stoicism begins by dismantling this assumption at its core. The Stoics didn't see anger as a force imposed from the outside. They saw it as evidence of something far more serious, a loss of self-governance. When you become angry, what's really happening is not that someone has attacked you, but that you have allowed an external event to step inside your inner command center. In that moment, your peace is no longer yours. It belongs to traffic, to a co-worker, to a stranger, to someone who may not even remember the interaction 5 minutes later. Think about how anger actually works in real life. A careless driver cuts you off. Your body tightens. Your thoughts race. Your mood shifts instantly. But the driver keeps going. They're gone. Yet you carry the incident with you into the next 10 minutes, the next conversation, sometimes the entire day. Who paid the price? Not them. You did. This is why the Stoics viewed anger not as strength, but as a hidden form of submission. Marcus Aurelius warned himself daily that he would encounter rude, selfish, and irrational people, not because he was pessimistic, but because he refused to be surprised by human nature. Surprise is what fuels anger. Expectation is what sharpens it. At the center of anger lies a silent assumption: this should not be happening to me. Someone should know better. People should be fair. Life should cooperate. But reality has never signed that contract. When you expect the world to meet your internal standards, you hand it the power to disturb you the moment it doesn't. This is why anger spikes strongest when expectations collide with reality. The Stoics understood that the world does not owe you calm. It offers resistance. Training is learning how to meet that resistance without collapsing inwardly. Epictetus expressed this with brutal clarity. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. That sentence removes every comfortable excuse. It means anger is not caused by words, events, or people. It is caused by interpretation. Two people can experience the same insult. One shrugs, the other explodes. The difference is not the event, it is the judgment attached to it, and judgment, unlike events, is optional. This is where anger reveals its true cost. When you believe others are responsible for your emotional state, you place your well-being permanently outside your control. Your peace becomes conditional on people behaving properly, conditional on life being smooth, conditional on circumstances aligning with your preferences. That is not strength, that is fragility disguised as righteousness. The Stoics rejected this position entirely. They chose sovereignty instead. Sovereignty means this: no one enters your inner world without permission. It does not mean you tolerate injustice or remain passive. It means you refuse to let chaos dictate your inner posture. Anger feels powerful in the moment, but it always weakens you afterward. It clouds judgment, it narrows perception, it pushes you to say things you wouldn't say if you were centered. And worst of all, it trains your nervous system to react automatically, making you easier, not harder, to control. Stoicism does not ask you to suppress anger or deny emotion. It asks you to recognize anger as a signal that you have surrendered authority somewhere. Somewhere, you told yourself a story that stripped you of choice. They disrespected me. They shouldn't act this way. This is unacceptable. Sometimes those statements may even be factually true, but truth alone does not require rage. Rage enters only when you decide that your inner stability depends on external correction. The moment you stop blaming others for how you feel, something unsettling happens. Responsibility returns to you. That can feel uncomfortable at first, but it is also where power lives. Because anything that depends on you can be trained, strengthened, and mastered. Anything that depends on others never will be. This is why the Stoics did not aim to eliminate difficulty. They aimed to eliminate emotional slavery. They accepted that people will disappoint, insult, and misunderstand you. But they refused to let those facts govern their inner state. They learned that anger is not something to fight. It is something to outgrow. Remember this, because it defines everything that follows. The moment you blame others for how you feel, you surrender control. 2. The one thing you must master. Judgment. Events do not control you. Judgments do. Anger begins the moment you mistake interpretation for reality. Master judgment, and anger loses its foundation. Every moment of anger follows a precise internal sequence, even if most people never notice it. Something happens, a word is spoken, an action occurs, and then, almost instantly, your mind assigns meaning. Disrespect, threat, injustice, personal attack. That meaning arrives so fast it feels like truth itself. But Stoicism teaches a dangerous idea. What you experience emotionally is not the event, but your judgment about the event. And that distinction changes everything. Marcus Aurelius wrote this not as theory, but as daily armor. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. In other words, suffering does not enter through the senses. It enters through interpretation. The world delivers raw data. Your mind turns it into a story. Anger lives inside that story. Most people never question their first interpretation. They assume their judgment is accurate, justified, and obvious. Anyone would be angry. I had every right. They crossed a line. And maybe they did. But Stoicism asks a sharper question. Does being right require being disturbed? Does accuracy demand agitation? The Stoics believed clarity and anger rarely coexist. The moment emotion spikes, judgment is already compromised. This is why judgment is the single skill the Stoics trained relentlessly. They understood that you cannot control events, people, or outcomes. But you can always control the lens through which you view them. And the lens determines the emotional result. Two men hear the same insult. One remains steady. The other explodes. The insult didn't change. The judgment did. Anger survives by disguising judgments as facts. They disrespected me. Feels factual, but it is an interpretation layered with assumption and intent. This shouldn't have happened is not a description of reality. It is a demand imposed on it. When these judgments go unchallenged, emotion feels inevitable. But when judgment is exposed, anger weakens immediately. This is where the Stoic principle of control becomes essential. Epictetus divided life into two categories: what is within your control and what is not. Your judgments, intentions, and actions are yours. Other people's behavior, opinions, and moods are not. Anger is born precisely at the moment you try to control what belongs in the second category. You want people to act differently. You want reality to follow your script. Judgment becomes the bridge where frustration turns into rage. The Stoic does not stop emotion by force. He interrupts the process earlier. Instead of reacting to the event, he examines the judgment forming inside him. Not emotionally, but clinically. What meaning am I assigning right now? What assumption did I just accept as fact? Is this interpretation necessary? Is it useful? Is it within my control? The moment you ask those questions, something subtle happens. Space appears, a gap between stimulus and response. And inside that gap, anger cannot fully form. This is not suppression. It is precision. It is the difference between being dragged by impulse and choosing response deliberately. Consider how often anger is fueled by imagined intent. They did that on purpose. They're trying to provoke me. They don't respect me. Sometimes these stories are true. Often they are not. But even when they are true, Stoicism asks, what do you gain by surrendering your composure? What does anger solve that discipline cannot? The Stoics were ruthless about this. If a reaction does not improve the situation or strengthen character, it is unnecessary. Mastering judgment does not mean becoming passive or indifferent. It means refusing to add poison to reality. It means seeing events as they are, without exaggeration, without personalization, without entitlement. When judgment is clean, emotion becomes manageable. When judgment is distorted, emotion becomes violent. Here is the Stoic discipline in its simplest form. When you feel anger rising, pause, just long enough to notice it. Name the judgment forming in your mind, not the event, the judgment. Then ask one question. Is this within my control? If it is, act calmly and directly. If it is not, release it completely. No mental argument, no replay, no resentment. That release is not avoidance, it is command. Most people think emotional strength is intensity. The Stoics knew it was restraint. The man who cannot govern his judgment will always be governed by others. The man who masters it becomes untouchable. Remember this. Anger does not come from what happens to you. It comes from what you tell yourself about what happens. And when you rule judgment, anger has nowhere left to stand. In the next part, you'll see why emotional detachment is not coldness or indifference, but the highest form of inner sovereignty a Stoic can develop. 3. Detachment is not coldness. It is sovereignty. Detachment is not weakness. It is strength without noise. You don't lose power by stepping back. You lose power by being pulled in. The calmest person in the room is the one in control. Most people misunderstand detachment because they confuse it with indifference. They imagine a detached person as cold, distant, emotionally numb. Stoicism means none of that. Stoic detachment is not about shutting down feelings. It is about refusing to let feelings drag you away from your center. It is the ability to stay rooted while everything around you tries to pull you into reaction. And in a world addicted to emotional chaos, that ability looks almost threatening. Detachment begins with a simple realization. Not everything deserves your emotional participation. Just because something is loud does not mean it is important. Just because someone is aggressive does not mean you need to meet them at that level. Most people confuse reaction with strength. They believe silence means submission and calm means weakness. The Stoics understood the opposite. The person who reacts instantly has already lost control. The person who pauses retains it. Think about how often anger is escalated by proximity. Someone insults you, and you feel the urge to respond immediately, to defend, to correct, to assert yourself. That urge feels like power, But in reality, it is compulsion. You are being pulled. Detachment is the refusal to be pulled. It is the ability to say internally, "This does not get access to me." Marcus Aurelius trained this skill relentlessly. He reminded himself that other people act according to their own understanding, limitations, and values. Their behavior is a reflection of them, not a verdict on you. When you detach, you stop taking every action personally. You stop interpreting every slight as an attack. And the moment you stop personalizing, anger loses its fuel. Detachment does not mean you tolerate disrespect or injustice. It means you respond from clarity instead of emotion. A Stoic can set boundaries, walk away, speak firmly, or take action without rage. In fact, detachment makes those actions more effective. When emotion is removed, decisions become sharper, words become fewer, authority becomes quieter but stronger. This is why silence is so often misunderstood. Silence is not avoidance. Silence is selectivity. It is the discipline of choosing when engagement is worth the cost. Most arguments are not battles of truth. They are battles of ego, and ego feeds on reaction. When you refuse to engage emotionally, you starve the conflict at its source. Consider how often people provoke not to communicate, but to extract emotion. They want reaction, validation, proof that they matter. Detachment denies them that reward. And in doing so, it preserves your energy. Energy is not infinite. Every emotional outburst drains it. Every mental replay consumes it. Detachment is how you stop bleeding energy into situations that do not deserve it. The Stoics believed that inner freedom was more valuable than external victory. You can win an argument and still lose your peace. You can prove a point and still feel disturbed afterward. Detachment prioritizes the outcome that actually matters: inner stability. It allows you to remain unchanged by chaos, rather than constantly reshaped by it. Detachment also reveals patterns. When you stop reacting, people show you who they are. Some calm down, to some escalate, some disappear. All of that information is useful. Reaction blinds you. Detachment clarifies. It turns emotional fog into data, and data gives you leverage. This is why Stoicism emphasizes withdrawing judgment and emotion before withdrawing physically. You don't need to leave every situation. You need to stop giving it emotional control. Once detachment is established internally, external decisions become easier and cleaner. Here is the Stoic posture. Observe without absorbing. Notice without narrating. Respond without reacting. This is not emotional suppression. It is emotional leadership. You are not denying feelings. You are placing them under command. Strong men are not those who dominate rooms with noise. They are the ones who can remain steady while others unravel. Detachment is how that steadiness is built. It is sovereignty in action. Remember this: you don't gain power by reacting faster. You gain power by remaining centered. In the next part, you'll see why expectation, not insult, not disrespect, is the deepest source of anger, and how releasing expectation permanently weakens its grip. 4. Expectation is the hidden fuel of anger. Anger is rarely caused by what happens. It is caused by what you expected to happen instead. Expectation turns normal life into a constant offense. Most people believe anger comes from disrespect, betrayal, or unfair treatment, but those are only surface triggers. Beneath nearly every outburst of anger sits a quiet, unexamined expectation. An expectation that people should behave better, that life should be fairer, that others should understand you, appreciate you, or act according to your internal standards. When those expectations collide with reality, anger ignites. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology gave it a name. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings by reminding himself that he would encounter selfish, rude, ungrateful, and unreasonable people. Not because he enjoyed pessimism, but because expectation management was his armor. He refused to start the day with illusions, and because of that, he was rarely shocked by human behavior. Anger thrives on surprise. Remove surprise, and anger loses its leverage. Expectation creates entitlement. Entitlement whispers, "This shouldn't be happening to me." And the moment that sentence forms, reality feels like a personal violation. Someone speaks harshly, and instead of seeing it as a reflection of their state, you see it as an injustice. Someone disappoints you, and instead of adjusting, you resent them for failing your internal contract. But that contract was never signed. It existed only in your mind. This is why two people can experience the same treatment with radically different emotional outcomes. One feels offended, the other shrugs and moves on. The difference is not tolerance or strength, it is expectation. The Stoic does not assume people will act rationally, kindly, or consistently. He prepares for imperfection, and preparation neutralizes anger before it forms. Expectation also distorts perception. When you expect fairness, every unfair act feels amplified. When you expect appreciation, every omission feels like disrespect. When you expect understanding, every misunderstanding feels like an attack. Anger is not proportional to the event. It is proportional to the gap between expectation and reality. The wider the gap, the stronger the reaction. The Stoics chose a different strategy. Instead of demanding that the world meet their standards, they trained themselves to meet the world as it is. This did not make them passive. It made them resilient. When you stop expecting people to behave ideally, you stop taking their failures personally. And when you stop taking things personally, emotional turbulence fades. There is a harsh truth here that most people avoid. Expectation is often disguised ego, the belief that others should know better, that they should prioritize your feelings, that they should meet your internal narrative. Stoicism cuts through that illusion. It reminds you that people act from their own conditioning, fears, incentives, and limitations. Once you accept that, anger no longer feels justified. It feels unnecessary. Letting go of expectation does not mean accepting abuse or lowering standards. It means separating standards from emotional dependency. You can prefer respectful behavior without requiring it for your peace. You can set boundaries without rage. You can walk away without resentment. Expectation says, "They must change so I can be calm." Stoicism says, "I choose calm regardless." This shift is uncomfortable at first. When expectation dissolves, responsibility returns inward. You can no longer blame others for your emotional state. But that responsibility is not a burden. It is freedom, because anything you take responsibility for, you can train. Anything you assign to others, you remain hostage to. The Stoics were not naive about human nature. They were realistic. They knew that people lie, disappoint, act selfishly, and fail repeatedly. But instead of being offended by this reality, they incorporated it into their worldview. And that is why anger had little room to grow. Here is the Stoic reframe. Instead of asking, "Why are they like this?" ask, "Why did I expect them to be different?" That single question collapses most anger instantly. It redirects attention away from the uncontrollable and back toward your own assumptions. When expectation is released, interactions become lighter. Conflicts lose intensity. Disappointment becomes information instead of injury. You stop fighting reality, and the energy once spent on anger becomes available for action, clarity, and growth. Remember this clearly. People rarely anger you. Your expectations do. In the next part, you'll learn how the Stoics trained emotional immunity daily. So calm becomes automatic, not forced. 5. Training emotional immunity. not emotional control. You don't become calm by understanding anger. You become calm by training for it. Peace is not a belief. It is a conditioned response. Most people believe that once they understand Stoicism, anger should disappear. They read the quotes. They nod along. They tell themselves they should be calmer. And then the next provocation arrives, and nothing changes. That's because insight alone does not rewire behavior. The Stoics knew this. They didn't aim for emotional control in theory. They trained emotional immunity in practice. Control implies constant effort. Immunity implies preparation. You don't fight a disease once it arrives. You build resistance beforehand. The Stoics treated anger the same way. They understood that when emotions spike, logic is already compromised. So they didn't rely on willpower in the heat of the moment. They trained when things were calm so that calm would remain when things were not. This is where modern people struggle. They wait until they're triggered to practice Stoicism. That's like trying to learn to swim while already drowning. Emotional immunity is built through repeated, deliberate exposure to discomfort under controlled conditions. Seneca called this voluntary hardship. Not to punish yourself, but to remove fear and shock from future adversity. When you intentionally step into small discomforts, your nervous system learns a powerful lesson. I can handle this. Cold showers. Skipping unnecessary comfort. Sitting with boredom without reaching for stimulation. Letting a message go unanswered. Walking away from an argument you could win. Each of these trains restraint, and restraint is the muscle anger cannot overpower. Another Stoic practice was premeditatio malorum, the anticipation of difficulty. Every morning, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he would face ignorance, selfishness, and disrespect. This wasn't negativity, it was calibration. When difficulty arrives and you expected it, it loses the power to surprise you. And anger feeds on surprise. Remove surprise, and anger arrives weaker. Most anger is not about the event, it's about the emotional ambush. I didn't see this coming. I wasn't ready. Training removes ambush. It builds familiarity with discomfort, and familiarity breeds calm. Emotional immunity is also built through delayed reaction. The Stoics were masters of the pause. Not a dramatic pause, a disciplined one. They trained themselves to never respond immediately when emotion surged. That delay interrupts the automatic cycle. It creates space for judgment to re-enter. Even a few seconds can prevent hours of regret. Modern life erodes this skill constantly. Instant replies, instant opinions, instant outrage. The faster you react, the more predictable and controllable you become. Emotional immunity restores unpredictability. You no longer react on cue. You choose when and how to engage. That alone shifts the power dynamic in every interaction. Another critical practice is refusing unnecessary mental replay. Anger often outlives the event because the mind keeps resurrecting it. Replaying conversations, imagining better responses, feeding resentment. The Stoics saw this as self-inflicted harm. Once an event is over and outside your control, revisiting it emotionally serves no purpose. Training immunity means learning to cut the loop. This is not suppression. Suppression pushes emotion down where it festers. Immunity means acknowledging the feeling without indulging it. I notice anger. I do not follow it. Over time, the signal weakens. The mind learns that anger is not rewarded with attention. Most people believe calm people are simply born that way. The Stoics knew better. Calm is trained, repeatedly, quietly, without applause. Emotional immunity is built in moments no one sees, when you choose restraint instead of reaction, discipline instead of expression, silence instead of escalation. And here is the uncomfortable truth. If you are constantly angry, it is not because life is unusually hostile. It is because your system is untrained. The good news is that training is available to anyone willing to practice consistently. You don't rise to the level of your philosophy. You fall to the level of your training. The Stoics trained not to eliminate hardship, but to remain intact within it. Remember this: anger fades when calm becomes automatic, and calm becomes automatic only through training. In the next part, you'll see why silence, used correctly, is not retreat, but the final line of defense for inner sovereignty. 6. Silence is the last line of defense. Silence is not weakness. It is control without permission. The moment you stop explaining, you reclaim authority. Silence is how you protect your inner fortress. Most people talk too much when they feel threatened. They explain, they justify, they defend, they argue, not because it's effective, but because silence feels like loss. The ego equates speaking with power. Stoicism teaches the opposite. When emotion rises, silence is not retreat. It is containment. It is the final line of defense between your inner order and external chaos. Anger often escalates because words escalate it. Every sentence adds fuel. Every explanation invites rebuttal. Every defense extends the conflict. The Stoics observed this pattern clearly. They understood that most confrontations are not resolved through persuasion, but prolonged through participation. Silence breaks that cycle. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he did not need to prove anything to anyone. Not his intelligence, not his worth, not his intentions. The moment you feel compelled to explain yourself emotionally, you have already handed the other person leverage. You are reacting to their frame instead of holding your own. Silence is powerful because it removes that leverage. It denies access. It creates asymmetry. When someone is trying to provoke, manipulate, or extract emotion, silence starves the interaction. They may escalate at first. Louder words, sharper tone, but eventually, without reaction, the behavior collapses. Not because you defeated them, but because you refused to play. This is why silence feels uncomfortable at first. It removes the familiar illusion of control. Speaking gives the sense that you are doing something. Silence feels passive, but Stoicism is not about comfort, it is about effectiveness. Silence keeps your nervous system regulated. It prevents you from saying what you cannot unsay. It preserves energy that anger would otherwise burn. Silence also reveals truth. When you stop filling the space, people show their intentions. Some calm down. Some expose insecurity. Some reveal aggression. All of that information matters. Reaction blinds you. Silence clarifies. It turns emotional noise into data, and data gives you strategic advantage. There is an important distinction here. Stoic silence is not avoidance. It is selective engagement. You are not refusing to speak. You are choosing when speech is worth the cost. The Stoics were not mute. They spoke when reason demanded it. But they never spoke to soothe ego, win validation, or discharge emotion. Words were tools, not reflexes. Anger thrives on immediacy. Silence introduces delay, and delay restores judgment. When you stay silent in the face of provocation, you give your rational mind time to reassert command. You interrupt the automatic cycle that leads to regret. Most people regret words spoken in anger. Very few regret silence. Modern culture mistakes constant expression for authenticity. Stoicism rejects that entirely. You do not need to express every feeling to be real. You do not need to verbalize every reaction to be strong. In fact, restraint is what separates maturity from impulsiveness. Silence is restraint made visible. Silence also protects boundaries. When you explain yourself repeatedly, you teach people that your boundaries are negotiable, that they can push, question, and demand access to your inner world. Silence teaches the opposite lesson. It communicates. This is not open for debate, and that message is often understood more clearly without words. There will be moments when silence is misunderstood. You may be labeled cold, distant, or arrogant. The Stoics accepted this cost willingly. They valued inner peace over external approval. If being misunderstood is the price of remaining centered, it is a price worth paying. Approval is fleeting, stability is not. Here is the Stoic rule. Speak only when your words improve the situation or express virtue. If they do neither, silence is superior. This rule alone eliminates most unnecessary conflict. It filters reaction from response. It preserves dignity without force. Remember this clearly. You do not owe anyone access to your emotional world. Silence is how you enforce that boundary. In the next part, you'll learn the exact Stoic protocol to use in the moment you feel triggered. So calm becomes a practiced response, not a fragile ideal. 7. The Stoic protocol when triggered. You don't need to eliminate triggers. You need a protocol for when they appear. Between stimulus and response, that space is your power. No matter how disciplined you become, triggers will still appear. People will interrupt you, disrespect you, misunderstand you. Life will not soften just because you've chosen Stoicism. The Stoics never aimed for a trigger-free life. They trained for something far more realistic, a reliable response when pressure hits. That response is not emotional suppression. It is a protocol. Without a protocol, reaction is automatic. Emotion rises, the nervous system takes over, and behavior follows habit instead of choice. This is why most people repeat the same mistakes for years. They promise themselves they'll stay calm next time, but next time arrives faster than intention can intervene. The Stoics solved this by removing improvisation. They didn't rely on willpower, they relied on structure. The Stoic protocol is simple, but not easy. It consists of 4 deliberate steps. Each step interrupts the emotional chain before anger can fully take control. The first step is pause, not indefinitely, just long enough to break momentum. Anger feeds on speed. The faster the reaction, the less control you have. A pause, 1 breath longer than usual, is enough to shift authority back to the rational mind. This pause is not hesitation, it is command. You are telling your nervous system, stand down. The second step is name the emotion, not dramatically, clinically. This is irritation, this is anger, this is resentment. Naming creates distance. When emotion is unnamed, it feels like truth. When it is named, it becomes an object you can observe. The Stoics understood that observation weakens emotional dominance. You are no longer inside the emotion. You are looking at it. The third step is question the judgment. This is where most people fail, and where Stoicism does its real work. Ask yourself, what story am I telling right now? What meaning did I assign to this event? What expectation was just violated? Anger is never raw. It is always layered with interpretation. When you expose that interpretation, emotion loses its certainty. Often, you will find assumptions where you thought there were facts. Then comes the most important question. Is this within my control? If it is, act calmly and deliberately. If it is not, release it without negotiation. Release does not mean approval. It means refusal to carry what does not belong to you. The Stoics were ruthless about this. They did not argue with reality, they adjusted to it. The fourth step is choose virtue, not emotion, not impulse. Virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, or temperance, depending on the situation. This step reframes the moment entirely. The goal is no longer to feel better. The goal is to act better. When virtue becomes the target, anger becomes irrelevant. You're no longer reacting to provocation. You're expressing character. This protocol does something subtle but powerful. It trains your identity. Each time you follow it, you reinforce the belief: I am someone who does not react automatically. Over time, this belief becomes self-fulfilling. Calm is no longer something you force. It becomes something you expect from yourself. Most people wait until they feel calm to act rationally. The Stoic acts rationally, so calm can follow. This inversion is critical. Emotion follows behavior more often than behavior follows emotion. By choosing disciplined action, you teach your nervous system that chaos does not require collapse. There will be moments when you fail. You will react. You will get pulled in. Stoicism is not about perfection. It is about correction. When you notice the failure, you return to the protocol. No self-attack, no shame, just recalibration. Every return strengthens the habit. Over time, something changes. Triggers still appear, but they feel muted. Not because the world improved, but because your response is no longer negotiable. Anger requires your participation, and the protocol teaches you how to withdraw it consistently. This is the difference between fragile calm and durable peace. Fragile calm depends on conditions. Durable peace depends on training. The Stoics chose durability. Remember this clearly. You don't control what hits you. You control what happens next. Next, we'll close this journey by tying everything together. So inner peace is no longer something you chase, but something you embody daily. Peace is not something you find. Peace is something you defend. And once mastered, nothing can take it from you. What you've learned here is not about becoming passive, numb, or detached from life. It's about becoming sovereign. Anger disappears not because the world becomes kinder, but because you stop handing it the keys to your inner state. You no longer look outward for calm. You generate it inwardly through judgment, discipline, and restraint. The Stoics never promised a gentle life. They promised a stable mind inside an unpredictable one. They understood that chaos is constant, people are imperfect, and frustration is inevitable. But suffering is optional. When you master your judgments, release expectations, train emotional immunity, embrace silence, and follow a clear protocol under pressure, anger loses its leverage. It has nowhere left to stand. Life doesn't get quieter. You get stronger. Insults don't vanish. They stop landing. Provocations don't end. They stop pulling you off center. This is not emotional control. This is emotional independence. Carry this with you. You're not here to react to everything that touches you. You're here to choose who you become in response to it. That choice, made consistently, is where real power lives. If this resonated, write this below and let it anchor you. Nothing controls my inner peace. Stay disciplined. Stay centered. And remember, calm is not weakness. It is strength that no longer needs to prove itself.